Chapter 16 Longing for the Beach Billionaire Daddy Novel Square. Right, because us normal people get invited to one of the largest private yachts in the world as guests all the time. You don't have to pretend you're not rich to fit in with the crew. They will like you because you are actually nice, Reggie said. I am the furthest thing from rich, I laughed. Oh, yeah, prove it, Reggie said with a teasing smile on his face. I quickly pulled out my phone and found a picture of me and my two roommates in our apartment and showed it to Reggie. What does this prove? He asked. This is a picture of me and my two roommates, Lynn and Aubrey. We are sitting in the living room of our one-bedroom apartment. I am a bartender at a little dive bar, and I currently have $230 in my bank account, I said matter-of-factly. Reggie's expression changed from one of teasing to one of shock. Are you serious? He asked. I mean, I can pull up a bank statement if you really want, I said with a smile. Then how did you end up as one of Lauren's friends? Lauren and I were roommates during our first few years at NYU. I think Lauren was placed in the regular dorm rooms to teach her what it was like to be a regular person or something, I said, only half joking. I still hadn't figured that one out. Maybe her dad was trying to teach her a life lesson. Anyway, she hated it and dropped out her sophomore year, but we remained friends and have been in and out of touch over the years. She randomly invited me on this vacation, and I accepted. I didn't expect the yacht to be quite this big, though. Once I was done with my explanation, we were on the lowest floor of the yacht. I was surprised at how nice the staff area was. Perhaps I'd been expecting it to be like a scene from the lower decks of the movie, Titanic, but the lowest level of the ship looked like walking into a lobby of a four-star hotel. We made our way into what must have been the staff dining room. There was a large group of people surrounding a circular table in the middle of a game of cards. Music was playing in the background, and snacks and beer littered the table. It looked like this was going to be the most comfortable I'd been on my trip so far. Everyone be nice, we have a newcomer, Reggie said as he pulled out a chair for me. The mood changed slightly as I sat down, and Reggie sat next to me. I realized I was still wearing the sundress that Michael bought me, and I must look like I was made of money. Hey, I'm Max, said a man with black hair and olive skin. Hey, Max, I'm Shelby, I stuck my hand out to shake his, and he smiled. Nice to meet you, Shelby. Tell us about yourself. There isn't much to tell. I'm a bartender at a little hole in the wall in New York, and I'm trying to put myself through law school, I said nonchalantly. What bar? A girl across the table asked. It's called McGregor's. No way. I've been there before, Max said. You have the best nachos. I laughed. Yeah, we do. I would eat an entire plate by myself if no one were watching. I felt the entire table relax as they all realized that I wasn't like the rest of the guests on the yacht. What are we playing? I asked, grabbing a handful of popcorn. Strip poker. My throat went dry at the thought of undressing in front of a room full of strangers. I was afraid to swallow the piece of popcorn I had just placed in my mouth. I looked around, and everyone was still fully clothed, and my heart rate started to slow. Max smiled, clearly finding enjoyment in my shock. Max, don't scare her off already, Reggie chuckled. Do you want a beer, Shelby? You would not believe what one of the Richies asked me today, Brenna said. She was a maid with sandy blonde hair and flawless winged eyeliner. Oh, this is going to be good. Brenna always has the best stories, Reggie leaned over and whispered to me. After a few beers and a hand or two of actual poker, everyone was seeming completely at ease with me. I was cleaning up a wine glass he'd dropped, and he started hitting on me. Obviously, he has no idea what the real world is like, so he started asking questions as a way to talk to me. Oh no, Max said with a laugh. He asked me about living on the bottom deck of the yacht, and I told him how it took some getting used to because we are below the water down here. Then he asked me how we used our balconies if they were underwater. I snorted into my glass, glad I hadn't been taking a sip of the beer at the moment, or it would have been flowing out of my nose. I set my beer down and asked, oh, please tell me you had a good comeback. She smiled brightly. I told him we could only use them at low tide. Then he nodded and said, that makes sense. I swear they are all clueless. Brenna started laughing, and the whole table joined in, but by the time I caught my breath, I had tears in the corners of my eyes. I had not laughed like this the entire time I'd been on the ship. No offense, Shelby. I know Lauren is your friend and all, but how do you stand spending time with them? Max asked. Oh, trust me, it is a challenge. I sneak off by myself whenever I get the chance. No one seems to really notice, especially after Lauren's engagement. Oh, man, her fiancé is a real tool, isn't he? Brenna added. He is a social climber too, so they are actually a great fit, Charlotte said. Charlotte was one of the older staff members and hadn't said much throughout the night. Well, that makes sense about the fiancé, but do you mean Lauren is one too? Max asked. They seem to have forgotten that I was there, or at least they forgot that I knew Lauren personally. However, I kept my mouth shut not because I wanted to know more, but because I was trying to act as if I didn't care too much. I started working for Mr. Astor when Miss Lauren and the horrible woman she has as a mother first came around. That same day, the staff was all told that Lauren was Mr. Astor's daughter and to make sure she had everything she needed. Marmee, Lauren's mother, spent the whole day ordering the staff around like she was the owner of the house, said Charlotte. From my experience with Marmee, that sounds about right, Max offered. Lauren was raised by another man by the name of Winston Radcliffe. Some of the staff had been around when Mr. Astor first brought Marmee around. The rumor was that Marmee threw Mr. Astor aside for Radcliffe right after she found out she was pregnant because Radcliffe could offer her a better position in society. I could not imagine someone who had the chance to be with Michael choosing another person over him. I couldn't help but ask, what did Winston offer that Michael couldn't? Radcliffe was the next in line for an earldom. It turned out that the earldom came with a shabby little estate that cost Winston his fortune to keep standing. The marriage quickly turned sour, and when the earl died, Marmee was just as quick to get a paternity test for Lauren. It's why some of us call Marmee the wannabe princess, Brenna said. Exactly, Charlotte said. In my opinion, Mr. Astor was better off not knowing the truth. Marmee always shows up asking for more money. Lauren has always wanted something, even though Mr. Astor buys her more than she could ever need. Was Michael in love with Marmee? I asked, not knowing if I really wanted the answer. No, I don't think he ever really loved her. Maybe he could have found a woman right for him if Marmee hadn't been around for the last 14 years, scaring away every decent woman he has dated. She thinks that if she can keep him single long enough, he will fall back in love with her, but Mr. Astor will never forgive her for what she did. I nodded and turned to see Reggie staring at me with a strange, almost hurt look on his face. He turned away from me before I could ask him what was wrong. Well, I think I'm going to head to bed, Brenna said, and the others all stood up to follow. You should come play cards with us again, Shelby, Max said. Absolutely. We are here every night, and you are welcome to join us, Brenna added. Thank you. I will. I was happy to know they'd welcome me as one of them. I said a quick goodnight to everyone and headed back up the stairs to the upper decks. Reggie's room was on the lower deck, so I walked by myself. It must have been later than I thought because the lights in the pool area were already turned off. I felt silly rushing across the dark deck, but it made me sort of nervous being alone on such a big ship. I was careful to avoid the deck chairs this time, and I was relieved to make it to the doors leading into the guest room corridor. Where the hell have you been, Shelby? I stopped dead in my tracks and didn't want to turn around. I knew that tone of voice from countless arguments. It was Todd, the last person on the entire ship that I would want to be alone with. I slowly turned, knowing I was going to have to face him eventually. He stumbled a step towards me, and I backed up to avoid a collision if he fell. Are you drunk? I believe I asked a question first, Todd stuttered. I was playing a game of cards with some of the crew. Todd laughed and rolled his eyes at me. He again stumbled a little closer, and I was trapped between him and my door. He leaned forward and placed an arm on either side of me, blocking my escape. I could smell the alcohol on his breath as he laughed. He was beyond drunk. Just like Shelby, a yacht full of every amenity you could want, and you spend your time with the help. Get off of me, Todd. You know you still want me, Todd said, lowering his face closer to mine. I pushed against his chest, trying to get him off. Shelby. Get your ass to bed before I throw you off my ship. I fumbled for the doorknob at my back, and the door swung open behind me, almost causing me to trip backward inside. Michael followed me into the room a few seconds later, leaving Todd out in the hall. Shelby. Get your ass to bed before I throw you off my ship. I fumbled for the doorknob at my back, and the door swung open behind me, almost causing me to trip backward inside. Michael followed me into the room a few seconds later, leaving Todd out in the hall. Chapter 17 Longing for the Beach Billionaire Daddy Novel Square. I thought that this was probably for the best because Michael looked like he really might throw Todd over the side of the ship. Michael locked the door behind him, and I made my way to the bed and sat down, trying to catch my breath. I felt safer with Michael here. He came over to me and placed his hands on each side of my face, looking into my eyes. Worry swam in his, and I nearly pulled his mouth to mine. Did he hurt you? Shelby, you have to tell me if he hurt you. I'm fine, really. I'm just a little shaken up, but I will be okay. He continued to hold my face in his hands as if he were inspecting it to reassure himself that I wasn't hurt. I had to keep my eyes focused on his so they wouldn't drift down to his perfect lips. Michael leaned in closer, and I closed my eyes, waiting. Cool air hit my cheeks, replacing the warmth where Michael's hands had been. My eyes burst open, and Michael's back was to me as he made his way to the sofa. Heat burned through my entire body, and I wished Michael hadn't pulled away. I swore under my breath. I had feelings for my friend's dad. Shelby, I need you to tell me the truth. What do you mean? I asked, still breathless. I saw your face when that piece of cheesecake with the engagement ring was set in front of you. You weren't surprised. You looked almost heartbroken. Then at dinner tonight, Todd said something that made it sound as though he has known you for a lot longer than just this week. Then, I came up here to check on you, and he has you cornered. Michael, he was just drunk. I don't think he knew what he was doing, I said, looking down at my feet. Is he the reason you wanted to leave? Michael asked bluntly. I couldn't understand his anger. Was it possible that he was jealous of Todd? Not him specifically, I said, quickly bending the truth. A lot of the group makes me feel like I don't belong. I don't come from money like the rest of them, and it is very obvious to me that I don't fit in with them. In all actuality, I did feel like the odd one out a lot of the time. I imagined it felt similar to following an older sibling and their friends around. No one really wanted you to come, but they put up with you so they wouldn't get in trouble. It was, however, still a lie about the reason I wanted to leave. Michael looked at me with a hint of sympathy in his eyes. I didn't know you felt that way. I don't feel that way when I'm with you. Sometimes it feels like you are the only one who wants me on this ship. I stood and made my way across the room to sit on the sofa opposite him. I do want you here, Michael said softly. I thought back to the maid, Charlotte, talking about how Marmee had run off all of the women that ever got serious with Michael. I realized that he wasn't the playboy Lauren had always made her father out to be. It wasn't his intention that none of the women he dated ever stayed around for long. I came up here to make sure you were feeling alright. I am feeling a lot better, I said, feeling guilty about getting out of dinner with an excuse of being seasick. It seemed like it was for the best, though, since I was apparently a topic of conversation at dinner. I wondered what Todd had said about me to Michael but knew it was best not to ask, or he would start asking questions I didn't want to answer. Did you get anything to eat? No, I didn't want to bug anyone. I thought back to the few handfuls of popcorn I had eaten while playing cards. I could definitely use something more substantial. Michael stood and walked to the intercom on the wall of my room. Can you please send some dinner up for Miss Shelby and a whiskey for me? Is there anything else I can get you, sir? Brenna said as she set down the tray on the coffee table between Michael and me. She turned and winked at me, and I tried my best to hide a smile. No, that's everything. Thank you, Brenna. I know it's rather late. I was up anyway, sir, and the night chef was in the kitchen making preparations for tomorrow, so it was really no trouble. Brenna turned and walked out the door, clicking it closed behind her. I could see myself becoming close friends with her. I planned to head down to the bottom deck in times when I needed an escape from the rest of the group. I like that you call all of your staff by name, I said, impressed that he cared so much about his staff despite his wealth. One of the few valuable things I learned from my father was to respect the people who work for you. Without them, I would not be able to do the work that I do or enjoy my limited free time. My father always made it a point to call each employee by their name. In that way alone, I followed in his footsteps. Michael took the cover off of my plate for me. It was a bowl of chicken pesto pasta and a side of garlic bread. The smell of the garlic hit my nose instantly, and I could feel my stomach urging me to grab the plate. Your father sounds like he was a very harsh man, I asked, hoping I wasn't overstepping. I grabbed the bowl of pasta off the tray and took a bite. The cheese melted in my mouth perfectly, complemented by the pesto. He was very harsh and strict. He had high expectations for me, and he made it known when I disappointed him. That must have been hard. It was, but it made me who I am today. I don't take the wealth, or the work it takes to maintain it, for granted. But I do try to be a kinder man than he was. I stayed quiet and worked on the rest of my pasta, slowly savoring each bite. I also knew Michael would probably leave as soon as I was done, so I took my time. I forgot to tell you I got in contact with a law firm I've worked with in the past. They would like to bring you in for an interview for a secretary position. I nearly dropped my fork. Are you serious? Michael smiled at my response. He nodded and took a swig from his whiskey glass. I'll get you their information. They are ready to bring you in as soon as you get settled. I can't thank you enough, Michael. You don't understand how life-changing this is for me, I said, setting down the bowl of pasta on the table. I wished I could stand up and hug him. I'm just glad you decided to stay. You are the only one making this trip bearable, Michael said, meeting my eyes. The look in his eyes made my heart flutter. A loud vibration against the leather of the sofa broke the moment, and Michael pulled out his phone. His face fell as soon as he read the notification on his home screen. I am so sorry, but I have something I have to deal with. I'm glad to see that you are feeling better, Shelby. If you need anything, let me know. I stood and said, thank you for everything, Michael, truly everything. He smiled and quickly made his way to the door. Without looking back, he closed the door behind him. The room suddenly felt empty with Michael gone. I slumped back onto the leather sofa and grabbed the garlic bread off the plate, dipping it in the remaining pesto at the bottom of my bowl. My phone screen illuminated the dark corner where my bed sat, so I hesitantly got up to check my notifications. At the top were a few messages in the group text between my friends, and just below that was a friend request from Michael. I smiled to myself and accepted it, then opened my group chat. Lynn, what amazing thing did you get to do today? I am bored of packing for the move. I need to live vicariously through you. Aubrey, Lynn, keep packing, you only have a few more weeks. Shelby was packed forever ago. Lynn, don't sound too sad to have us go, lol. Aubrey, you know I am going to miss you too like crazy, but I know you will panic pack at the last minute and forget half your underwear drawer. I am not shipping your panties to you, Lynn. Lynn, you know me too well, obs. Shelby, I love that every time I check my phone, I have messages like these. Nothing exciting today. We have been at sea all day on our way to Lauren's dad's mansion in the Bahamas. I went down to the employees' quarters and played cards and got a lot of dirt on Lauren's mom. Lynn, okay, I'm going to need pictures of this Bahamas mansion and details on her mom. Shelby, Lauren's mom left her dad for another man because she thought it would help her climb the social ladder. Turned out he wasn't as rich or well off socially as she thought, and when he died, she did a paternity test, and here we are. Shelby, we are going to her dad's mansion for Lauren and Todd's engagement party. Lynn, it sounds like Lauren is the spitting image of her mother. Aubrey, not only did you have to witness their engagement, but now you have to go to their engagement party too. Lynn, I swear, Shelby, you have the absolute worst luck on the planet. Shelby, you don't even know the half of my bad luck on this trip. Lynn, what do you mean? What else has happened? Shelby. Well, I don't really fit in with the rest of the group. Aubrey. But I thought you said you were making other friends. Michael. Right. Shelby. I am. Lynn. So, what do you mean by bad luck? Shelby. Michael is Lauren's dad.
Michael. Once I'm in the hall, I open the text message that interrupted my conversations with Shelby. Lucille, do you know someone named Blaine? Chapter 18 Longing for the Beach Billionaire Daddy Noble Square. That simple sentence made my stomach drop. He was now contacting family members. I made my way back to the privacy of my office for the second time in the same night. I closed the door behind me before dialing my cousin Lucille's number. Michael, I am so glad you called me. I just had the strangest conversation with someone named Blaine. I was just getting out of the bath when I got a call from an unknown number. Now, usually I don't answer the phone if I don't know the number, but I gave my information to this adorable man at the coffee shop earlier today, so I figured it was him. Lucille, this is important. I need you to tell me exactly what Blaine said to you. I had to keep Lucille focused on the topic. She'd always been a talker, but at that moment, I couldn't politely listen to all of her stories in their excruciating detail. Oh, right, the call from Blaine. He told me I needed to meet his demands or else. What were his demands? He wants me to send $500,000 in a box to an address in New Jersey. I'm sure it is just one of those scam callers that has nothing better to do with their life. Lucille, if you thought it was a scam, then why did you ask me if I knew him? Well, that's what I found so strange. He knew all about our family tree and how we are related. I just thought it was a little more information than scammers normally have. However, who knows? With the internet, I'm sure people can find out all kinds of information about our family. We aren't exactly flying under the radar. Oh, did you see that latest news article in the paper? Apparently, you are about to agree to an arranged marriage to the Princess of Thailand. Lucille, I'm afraid this isn't a scam. But the arranged marriage definitely isn't true. Have you left your house since you got this call? No. Why? Michael, you're making me nervous. Okay, don't leave your house. I'm sending some of my security team over there now. Do not open the door for anyone else. What should I do about Blaine's demands? Just ignore it. Michael, who is it we are dealing with? Lucille asked. She was clearly nervous now. You don't have to deal with anyone, Lucille, I promise. I will take care of everything. Don't answer any unknown numbers, and do not go anywhere without one of my men with you. I will get this figured out. Okay, Michael, just be careful. I will be. Call me if you need anything. I hung up the phone and slammed my palm against my desk, even though I wanted to punch something instead. I allowed myself a few seconds of anger before picking up my phone again and calling my head of security. Hello, a burly voice sounded on the other end of the phone call. Bruce, I need you to send 2 men over to my cousin Lucille's home in the West Village. Her address should be listed in her file. Of course, sir. Has there been an incident? A man named Blaine Blake. He is blackmailing Lucille at the moment. I am not sure what he is capable of, but he is a threat to the entire family. I need your best men on this. 2 men are already on their way to your cousins, so do I need to send a team to you? I knew I'd hired Bruce for a reason. He was extremely efficient and always one step ahead of everyone else. He was exactly who I needed to help me take care of Blaine. No need at the moment, but I will keep you posted. Oh, and Bruce. Yes, sir. Keep your ear to the ground, and let me know anything you find out about this Blaine Blake. Any information that you find needs to be kept under wraps. Some of what you may find has the potential to ruin my family's public image. On it, so everything will be done with the utmost secrecy. Thank you, Bruce. Have a good evening. I hung up the phone and set it on my large oak desk. Unconsciously, I had been pacing my office while I was on the phone, so I slumped down into my leather armchair and swiveled it around so I could watch the ocean. It was so dark, it was hard to differentiate the water from the sky. I should have known I would hear from Blaine eventually. I first found out about his existence after my parents' death when I was 17. My father's will had very bluntly stated that his bastard was to receive nothing. I had no idea that I had a half-brother out there in the world until after my dad was gone and couldn't explain the situation for himself. I was left spending the rest of my early adult life piecing the clues together. My parents' constant fighting and lack of affection for each other made complete sense as soon as I knew that my father's infidelity was likely the cause. I ripped apart my father's office, trying to find any clues about his hidden life. The only thing I found was a check register, showing he had paid a woman named Ann Blake $100,000. I had no illusions about my father, I knew exactly what he'd done. My father kept detailed records of every dime he ever spent. The lack of information on the check register told me everything I needed. The $100,000 was hush money, and the woman, Ann Blake, had to be my father's mistress. I searched for years to find Ann Blake, but her name was so common, it was impossible to narrow down my search enough to find the right woman. I had no other information to go off of, and I was left with a million unanswered questions. It wasn't until I found out that I was Lauren's father that I had a hope of finding my brother. Lauren had taken a DNA test that linked her to other Astors who had the DNA in the same database. I took the same DNA test and waited for a notification that I had a sibling match in the database. Last year, that notification finally came, but after some digging into my brother Blaine Blake's history, I wished I'd never known about him. More importantly, I wished he didn't know either. Blaine's criminal record was far from clean, with multiple charges of petty theft and blackmail. It wasn't long after that the threats started coming in. At first, it was easy to shake the threats off, and I simply ignored all of them. In the last month, Blaine must have gotten desperate because his attempts at blackmail were getting increasingly threatening. So far, I had even avoided telling my security team about the threats, but now he was threatening my family. I knew Bruce would get to the bottom of the problem, but he would likely find out about all of my family's dirty laundry in the process. I ran my hands up my face and through my hair. Leaning back, I stared at the ceiling. I knew I would never be able to sleep after the events of the last few hours, so I turned back around to my desk and opened my laptop. I figured I might as well get some work done if I was going to be up anyway. A notification greeted me as the screen flashed to life. Shelby had accepted my friend request. At that, I couldn't help but smile, just a little. There was something about that woman that made it impossible for me to get her out of my head. I was immediately distracted by the memory of her riding on the back of the jet ski to find the dolphins. Thinking of that day, I could almost feel her slender body pressed against my back in her bikini that showed off her gorgeous figure and how her face lit up when the dolphins swam into the cove. That night when she walked out of the salon in the dress that I mentioned would look good on her, she nearly knocked me senseless. She felt beautiful, I could see it on her face. It made her more beautiful than I thought possible. I realized sitting there alone in my office, I would give anything to make her feel that way all the time. There was no point in denying it any further, I was attracted to my daughter's friend. If she were anyone other than Lauren's friend, I would pursue her without a second thought. But the last thing I needed was to complicate my relationship with my daughter even more. It didn't help that my daughter was so clueless as to be cruel to the one person she invited that could actually help her grow into a decent person. The screen of my phone alerted me to another incoming text message. "Mommy, I need a plane ticket to the Bahamas." It was bad enough that I had to hear about my daughter's engagement over the phone. I refused to miss her engagement party too, so we will also need to push the party back so I can be there. A few seconds later, another message followed the first. "Mommy, also, we need to start discussing the wedding plans. Lauren's wedding needs to be absolutely perfect. We can talk about the details later. Send the flight information as soon as possible." I opened the drawer of my desk and slid my phone inside. I was not in the mood to deal with Mommy and her demands. I knew deep down that Lauren was becoming more and more like her mother each and every day. A part of me was excited about Lauren's wedding for the simple fact that she would be another man's problem. I immediately felt bad for thinking that of my own daughter, but it seemed she only cared about my money. Thinking about Lauren's upcoming wedding brought a new wave of memories rushing in. Embarrassment flooded my veins as I thought about the conversation I had with my daughter over dinner.
The last thing I wanted to do was run into Todd, especially after his actions the night before. I thought it would be wise to avoid him completely. Book in hand, I headed to the secret deck off of the dining room balcony, where I had shared a few quiet moments with Michael. I figured it would be the best place for me to hide out and also possibly run into Michael again. He had left in such a rush the night before. I was curious to find out what had happened. I checked down the hallway before speed walking to the dining room. As soon as my hand hit the doorknob, Lauren's voice sounded behind me. "Shelby, I have been looking for you everywhere." I turned around quickly, and I was relieved to see that Lauren was alone. She was wearing a one-piece swimming suit in navy blue with the bust line cutting down to her belly button. She had a white sun hat placed on her waves of perfect curls and a pair of Chanel sunglasses to complete her beachwear. "Lauren," I said with a smile. "Come with me down to the beach. I am so bored, and I can't stand being on this boat for another second," she said with an overly dramatic sigh. "I thought we were heading to your dad's place and wouldn't get there until tonight." I turned and looked out the dining room windows. I was surprised I hadn't noticed earlier that we weren't moving. Daddy said we had to stop to refuel. He is also giving some of the crew their half-day break so they can go on land and contact family or something stupid like that, Lauren said with a roll of her eyes. "Oh," I said, slightly irritated at Lauren's insensitivity. "Well, a half day isn't that bad. It is when you have an engagement party to plan. Plus, Daddy told me that my mom is flying out for the party. She is going to be waiting at the house while we sit here all day." The thought of meeting Marmee made me slightly nervous. Maybe because I was worried she would be able to tell I had feelings for Michael. I couldn't let Lauren catch me in a daydream about her dad, so I shifted the conversation as quickly as possible. "Where is everyone else?" "Everyone has a hangover. Todd started a drinking game last night, and everyone had a little too much." Well, that made a lot of the previous night make more sense. Todd was never one to handle his alcohol very well, and he was even worse at games. I was curious as to just how many drinks made Todd forget himself the way he did last night. He was not waiting long into the engagement to show his true colors. "How are you not hungover?" I asked, looking her up and down. She didn't look like she had been drinking the night before at all. As always, she looked absolutely flawless. The bartenders know to give me water instead of an actual shot. I hate the way I get bags under my eyes when I drink too much. It is much better to stay hydrated than look hungover. Right. Well, I was just going to go find somewhere quiet to read, but reading on the beach sounds a lot more fun. "Great, I can wait for you to go get ready," Lauren said, looking at my outfit. I had pulled my hair up into a ponytail and opted for a blue flowy tank top and jean shorts. "I am ready, Lauren." "Oh, you look cute. Anyway, let's go." I followed Lauren out on the dock and quickly realized it would not be a simple morning on the beach. A few members of staff had set up a large tan beach canopy surrounded by white gauzy curtains. In the center was a pair of chaise lounge chairs made of rattan and topped with matching white cushions. It looked like a photo shoot. "Do you think you could take a few pictures of me? I haven't posted anything in a few days, and my followers are getting antsy." The true purpose of Lauren inviting me to spend time with her this morning becomes very obvious. She needed a photographer, not a friend. "Sure, I can take a few. I really want to read this book, though, so if we could be fast." "Oh, that is an awesome idea." Lauren grabbed the book out of my hand and flipped it from the front cover to the back. I must have looked confused because she quickly explained. "We could take a few shots of me reading on the beach. I haven't done that before. Is this one of those books that will make me look smart?" "Yeah, I guess we could. It's just a romance novel. I don't know if your followers will think it makes you smart, but it might make you a little more relatable to some people." Smart people read, Shelby. You, of all people, should know that. Maybe I will stop getting all those mean comments about being stupid. I can caption it, "Steamy reading on the beach." Lauren took her place on the lounge in a very photogenic pose that made her look graceful while still artfully showing off her cleavage. She opened the book and draped it over herself, careful not to block her best assets. After a few pictures, she would check my work and find the smallest thing she didn't like and would make me take more. Make sure you get the lighting just right and hold the camera up higher for a better angle. Oh, and make sure to get a good view of the ring. I'm hoping someone will notice it, and then my comment section will blow up. Don't you want to wait until the actual announcement? I asked. Oh, no. I am going to pretend like it is a mistake that I posted a picture with the ring on, that way, it will attract more attention. It's always about the attention with you, I said under my breath. What was that? Tilt your head up higher, so you don't have a double chin. Lauren gasped and asked to see the pictures I had taken, so she could search for the non-existent double chin. I felt bad as soon as I said it, I didn't need to stoop to her level. After finding out so much about Lauren's past, I understood why she could be so hard to be around at times. If I had found out my father wasn't really my father after he passed away, I would have been devastated too. I think it was just a shadow. Lauren, you don't have a double chin in any of these pictures. I don't think it is even possible for you to have a double chin, I said, trying to make up for my moment of weakness. Of course, you're right, Lauren said as she handed her phone back to me. Apparently, we weren't done taking pictures. Maybe we could get a few shots of me in the sand. Those always get a ton of likes. Lauren began to position herself on her stomach in the sand with the book open in front of her. She bent her knees, so her legs were in the air, and she bit the end of her sunglasses while she pretended to read. The pictures looked like they belonged on the cover of a magazine. Lauren looked so natural, even though she was strategically posing herself. Lauren, do you ever get tired of this? Of taking pictures? No, not really. Not just of the pictures, but of constantly worrying about what others are thinking of you. That is why I take so many pictures. If you put your best picture out there, the only ones who comment mean things are the people who are jealous. It just seems like so much work to paint yourself as perfect all the time. I guess that is why I stopped using social media so long ago for the most part. For once, things actually are perfect. I have the perfect fiancé, and soon I'll have the perfect wedding too. If you ever want to get back onto social media, I could help you. A lot of guys have a thing for redheads. I'm good for now, but thanks, I said and resumed taking pictures. I realized that Lauren likely didn't know about my past relationship with Todd because I never posted anything about it on social media. If I didn't tell her, she likely wouldn't ever know, and I did not want to be the one to break that news to her. So I kept my mouth shut and kept taking every picture Lauren asked for. I think I should have something I can work with from these. Thanks, Shelby, for helping me out. It was so much fun to spend some time with you, Lauren said and made her way back to the ship without looking back. It wasn't exactly my idea of fun to take pictures all afternoon, but I was finally alone, and I could enjoy my book. I took Lauren's chaise lounge under the shade of the canopy. Even with the breeze gently fluttering the sheer curtains hanging off the canopy, I was still dripping sweat. I had to stand directly in the sun to get all of the shots until my wet tank top clung to my body. I checked the beach to make sure it was empty before slipping my shirt off and setting it next to me on the empty lounge chair. I felt so much cooler as the breeze snuck through the gaps of my lacy bralette. I opened my book and was so thankful for the silence. I got sucked into the story on the pages, so much so that I did not hear the voices approaching until they were only a few feet from me. Can you call and make sure the interest rate we discussed earlier is set in stone? Of course, sir. I didn't have time to slip back into my shirt, so I pressed the open book to my chest, taking advantage of the little coverage it offered me. I looked up to find Michael and Reggie staring at me. Reggie quickly averted his eyes, his cheeks glowing crimson. Michael stared openly at my body, and when his eyes met mine, I knew he wanted me as much as I wanted him. Shelby. I am so sorry, we didn't realize you were out here. We will give you some privacy, Reggie said as he kept his head down and shuffled through the sand back to the dock. We aren't leaving for a few more hours, Michael said, holding my gaze as tightly as I was holding the open book to my chest. Chapter 20 Longing for the Beach Billionaire Daddy Novel Square. Take your time and enjoy yourself. I will make sure no one comes down and bothers you if you would like to resume reading. Michael winked at me and then followed Reggie back to the dock. I watched him as he walked away, his neatly pressed linen button-up fluttering gently in the breeze. Once he and Reggie were at a safe distance, I grabbed my shirt off of the lounge chair next to me and slipped it over my head. I let myself fall backward on the plush cushions and closed my eyes, imagining Michael undressing me the way he had done with his eyes when he realized I was wearing nothing save for my bralette. A wave of heat rushed through me at the thought until I remembered where I was. I sat up so quickly that I made my head spin. After waiting a few seconds to regain my balance, I placed my book under my arm, and with my head down, I raced back to my room. As soon as my door clicked closed behind me, I headed for the shower, throwing my clothes to the floor on my way there. I stood for a long time under the cool water. Eventually, I felt the embarrassment wash down the drain. It took even longer for the heat Michael made me feel to wash away. Wrapping myself in a towel, I made my way out of the bathroom. I would have loved to sit on the balcony and let the breeze help extinguish what I was feeling, but I figured I had already taken too much risk for one day. Instinctively, I grabbed my phone off of the bed to text my friends an update. Shelby, if I could die of embarrassment, you two would be making funeral arrangements as we speak. Lynn, ooh, is there some daddy drama we need to know about? Shelby, ew, don't call him daddy. But unfortunately, yes. I was just lying on the beach in my lacy bralette, and I had no idea Michael was walking by until it was too late. Aubrey, I'm sure he didn't mind. If it is that one you bought on our last shopping trip, I know he didn't mind. Lynn, so what did you do? Let him stand there in awe. Shelby, so not funny, you too. I covered myself with the book I was reading, but we definitely shared a moment. Lynn, sounds steamier than those romance novels you read. Shelby, I think I am in way over my head. What do I do? We are staying at his house in the Bahamas for the next few days. We should get there later tonight. Lynn, let it happen. Aubrey, just see where it goes, but if you want to leave, I will find you a plane out of there. Shelby, it might not be a bad idea to get that flight information. Would you mind, Aubrey? Aubrey, of course, I will send you the details. That way, you have them if you need them. Shelby, thank you. I will keep you both updated. I closed my phone and sighed. I didn't want to leave, but it might be for the best, so I didn't do something stupid. The thought of leaving this vacation was a weighted decision. If I never saw Todd again for the rest of my life, I would be overjoyed. However, the thought of possibly never seeing Michael again, of never finding out if we could be more, was painful to think about. My head was spinning over what the best decision was. So instead of making any big decisions, I got myself dressed. I put on a pair of leggings and a matching crop top, fully expecting another quiet day at sea. Exhausted from the heat of the morning and Lauren's impromptu photo shoot, I threw myself on the bed and closed my eyes for what felt like a few minutes. A light knocking on my door woke me up, and my eyes took a moment to adjust to the lighting in the room. A quick look out my balcony window, and I knew I'd slept way longer than I had intended. The golden glow of sunset was streaming through the windows, dusting everything in a light pink hue. Brenna, hey, what's going on? I asked as I opened the door, happy to see a familiar face. I was sent up to help you with your luggage. We should be arriving at the Astor's vacation home in about an hour. Oh, wow. I slept a lot longer than I meant to, I said and held the door open for Brenna to enter my room. I tried to rub the sleep from my eyes as she walked into my room. No worries, the only thing you missed was the Richies showing off in the pool all day. Then it sounds like I made the right decision. How were they showing off? Oh, you know the usual. I'm so annoyed my parents bought me the wrong color convertible. I can't believe he really thought that I drank anything but sparkling water. The sheets in my room are so uncomfortable, the ones on my dad's yacht are Egyptian cotton. I laughed and shook my head. Brenna did a great impression of the things I had heard from different members of the group all week. I headed to the closet, Brenna right behind me. I don't think it will actually take me an hour to get everything packed up. Most of my stuff can just be thrown back in my suitcase, and my new clothes are all still in the garment bags. It must be my lucky day. I was in the girl Megan's room earlier, and it looked like she tried on an entire store's worth of clothes and threw them on the floor when they weren't what she was looking for. I feel horrible for whoever got assigned to her room. I would pity anyone who had to work for Megan. I avoid her at all costs. When she glares at you, it feels as though you're going to start burning right on the spot, I said. I know, right? She is the worst of all of Lauren's friends, but her dad owns some luxury watch company, so she has been a regular on the guest lists for a long time. Brenna, what is the vacation house like? I asked. It is more than someone like you or me could ever believe one person could afford. As the yacht pulled up to the private dock of the Astor's Bahama vacation home, the size of the mansion was on full display. The white colonial-style mansion was 3 stories tall, with cantilever balconies off of the second floor. An illuminated infinity pool rested at the top of the whited sanded private beach. A small runway off to the side of the property ended at a white stone gazebo that jutted out into the ocean. Full palm trees edged the beach, making it feel secluded from the rest of the island. There was already music playing from the large deck, and shadows of people dotted the beach and the poolside. Lauren rushed down to the dock, where a group of long-legged, tan women waited for her. Lauren squealed and thrust her hand in front of her to show off her engagement ring. This was followed by echoed squeals from the group. I hesitated as my feet hit the dock, not wanting to get in the middle of the model-like women. Oh, sweetie, the maid's entrance is around to the side, one of the tall women said. I stopped in my tracks, not knowing how to respond to the assumption. I felt a warm palm on my lower back push me gently forward past the woman. Michael. He leaned down close to my ear and whispered, "Don't let them intimidate you. You're twice the woman any of them could ever be." His breath tickled my neck, and goosebumps prickled the skin down my arms. I looked up at him and gave him a weak smile. "Let me show you where you will be staying," he said quietly as he let the corner of his mouth brush my earlobe. "Thank you," I nearly moaned. Michael kept his hand on my lower back as we walked to the mansion. He led me through the back doors and into a living room with a giant chandelier hanging in the middle of the room. 2 fish tanks containing every color of tropical fish rested on either side of the large staircase we took to the second floor. This is one of my favorite rooms in the entire house. Michael led me into an elegant bedroom with white double doors exiting onto one of the balconies I had seen from the yacht. Palm fronds were a recurring theme in the decorations throughout the room in a pale green color. It is so beautiful, I don't dare touch anything. Nonsense. Make yourself comfortable. It is one of 3 master bedrooms, so you have your own ensuite just through that door there, Michael said, gesturing to an open door on the other side of the room.